Welcome to a new daily top AskReddit video. Today's topic.
In real life, who is the person that society treats as a villain but is actually a hero? McDonald's hot coffee woman did nothing wrong and was crucified by media and a multi-billion-dollar company. A 79-year-old woman who got third-degree burns on 6% of her body, permanent disfigurement, and years of disability just asked him to cover her medical bills. They offered $800, less than 1/10 of her bills. And McDonald's had already been told before that to crank back the temperature on the coffee because it was hotter than it needed to be, to the point of being dangerous. They were negligent, and she specifically requested that the coffee not be too hot. She was treated like garbage and that spill fused her vagina shut. Richard Jewell got pretty screwed for doing the right thing. Who's that? Security guard at the Olympics who reported pipe bombs in a public area and was falsely accused by the FBI of planting them. Ruined his life. He died in his early 40s. George Michael was vilified in the press for his lifestyle and for his drug addictions. After he died, it was revealed he was an incredible philanthropist in private. He never sought recognition for the good he did. One of the absolute worst cases of the press demonizing a public figure for zero reason. Edit, zero justifiable reason. The UK press are the worst. They put people on pedestals and build them up to enormous heights and then take great delight in smashing them down. They also enabled and abetted people like Jimmy Savile. Not for no reason, just for a shitty reason: rampant homophobia. I've just been rewatching Friends and there's so much casual homophobia, which shocks me now, but didn't at the time. They're not outright nasty, but stuff like getting really defensive about being seen as gay, or using it as an insult. Ross doesn't like the man Nanny, and says something like, I mean, what? Is he gay or something? It's a reflection of the times, but at the time, we thought we were progressive. He also bought John Lennon's piano that he wrote, Imagine, on, then donated it to the Beatles Museum. Hugh Thompson put his helicopter between the villages and American troops during the My Lai massacre and ordered his gunner to fire on the American troops if they continued to murder the civilians. He was made a villain after the fact, with even a member of Congress trying to get him court-martialed. I'd received death threats over the phone: dead animals on your porch, mutilated animals on your porch some mornings when you get up. https://en.wikipedia.org/wiki/Hugh_Thompson_Jr. You should know that this comment is accurate, but these days his story is taught by the army as an example of disobeying unlawful orders. I learned about him in Warrant Officer Candidate School. I believe his portrait is on the wall in the classroom building with other notable warrant officers. Same in other branches. He's taught as an example of what you should do. I was watching A Few Good Men for the first time recently, and as soon as I finished, the first thought that came in my head was, no way the Department of Defense supported this movie in any way. Go on IMDb trivia and yup, they had to create sets and unable to shoot on location. Damn, I'd never even heard of this hero. I can't imagine the balls it took to place himself between the US military and people who had no idea who he was or that could ever even thank him for his bravery. Shame he was treated so awfully after the war. The story of the criminals he tried to stop could fit in a thread about the opposite thing: villains who were treated like heroes. The only person that was convicted of any wrongdoing served 3 days in prison. The White House was bombarded with calls to pardon him after he was initially sentenced to life. So they were defended by the public. The military tried to cover it up. Thompson did amazing, but I think it's arguably only because of photographs taken by their photographer, who sold the pictures rather than turning them in, saying he thought they'd be destroyed. That meant it couldn't be covered up. The only people who were punished were the people who did good. Everyone who told the truth or made the military look bad in some way would have lasting consequences on their careers, including the guy leading the investigation, William Pierce, who's a hero in his own way too, lead the investigation and did so properly knowing it would ruin his career. He was essentially told he'd get a promotion to 4-star general for taking on this investigation, but he knew it wouldn't go that way. He was a World War II vet, founded and worked with special forces in the Korean War, lots of recognition during his previous time. He recommended a lot of court-martial included high-ranking people because he saw the attempted cover-up as bad as the original crime. Following the investigation, he was allegedly sent to Korea to serve under a 4-star general that they had brought out of retirement, and never got his promotion. Topher Grace. It was only very recently when people realized that he was the good guy and everyone else in that 70s show were the villains. I know the rest of them sucked, but when did people hate Topher Grace? I've never heard a bad thing about him. For a pretty long time people were really negative on him for his attitude in wanting to distance himself from that 70s show and not wanting to associate with the cast. People didn't understand why he didn't want to be associated with all these amazing people, and he was kinda blacklisted for a while because of it until everything came out after the Danny Masterson stuff. I actually have no opinion here and would love to hear more details. Links. What happened? https://www.uScannonberg.media.com/2023/09/20/letters-written-in-support-of-Danny Masterson-highlight-the-larger problem-of-section. Basically everyone but Topher wrote letters saying, "We know Danny Masterson is a monster but he's actually a good guy, so go easy on him, K." And most of the main cast is either in or heavily involved in Scientology, which, yeah. Not a person, but sharks. Sharks just have bad PR. Sharks have been portrayed as bloodthirsty monsters towards humans when that stigma should be given to hippos. Polar bears have been running around with that reputation and they'll gladly prove everyone right. The Jets were the true villains. Snap snap snap. IDK if she did anything to be called a hero, but the dingo ate my baby lady. She was treated so horribly for a person who just lost a child, and even after it was confirmed a dingo indeed ate the baby, people continued the joke. She spent 3 fucking years in jail for it too. I can't believe she came and didn't go immediately start fucking the people up that put her in jail. I just looked up the case and the money she and her husband got for the wrongful conviction, I quote, covered less than 1/3 of their legal expenses. Fucking hell. She was 8 months pregnant as well when she was sentenced to life in prison. After the birth, her daughter was taken away from her and put in foster care. Imagine that, after already losing one child, having another one ripped from your arms. That one was fucked because all the indigenous people in the area. In no uncertain terms that it happened frequently enough, that it was a known thing to keep your baby close, as the dingoes will in fact run off with your baby. And everyone just disregarded them and continued railroading her. At the inquest after the disappearance of Azaria Chamberlain, the coroner originally found that a dingo probably took Azaria. But the Northern Territory government feared this would harm the burgeoning, domestic, tourism industry, so pushed for the case to be reopened and to quash the idea a dingo was responsible, because that might scare off tourists. Indigenous trackers who backed the dingo idea were ignored, as were other people there, non-indigenous campers who attested to the presence of aggressive dingoes. Anyone attesting to the dingo angle was deliberately ignored, had their credibility questioned during trials, etc. This wasn't accidental or solely due to casual racism, it was deliberate. William Bligh has been treated rather shabbily by history, but in reality was a pretty remarkable man. He rose to admiral in the Royal Navy as a commoner with very few family connections and was hand-picked by Captain James Cook for his third Pacific voyage. After the mutiny on HMS Bounty, many of Bligh's men remained loyal to him and they were set adrift in a lifeboat in the middle of the Pacific by Fletcher Christian and the rest of the mutineers. Essentially stranded in a large rowboat, Bligh navigated over 2,600 nautical miles of open ocean to Timor, having saved the lives of all but one of his men. Fantastic mariner, but by all accounts a very poor leader, out of tune to the realities surrounding him. Another mutiny under his authority was the Rum Rebellion while he was governor of New South Wales, which was likely caused by him actually trying to do the right thing in a ham-handed manner and led to his being deposed and imprisoned. The tale of someone who is excellent at their job and a good person but terrible at management, leadership is a sadly common one even today. Defense attorneys, maybe. Definitely. People vilify them for defending rapists, murderers, child abusers, etc., but they're doing one of the most important jobs in the country. They're ensuring people's rights aren't violated in court the best they can. Even with what they're doing, we've got too many innocent people behind bars. Imagine how many it would be if it weren't for defense lawyers. If only the public defender's offices could get the money and personnel they need. They're also often the only part of the system pressuring cops and prosecutors to make a proper case with evidentiary support. Anytime I hear someone complaining that a suspect got off on a technicality, I want to scream that they're angry about the wrong thing. In most cases, you can only get off on a technicality if the prosecution tries to cut corners or fails to do the job correctly. It brings to mind one of my favorite quotes from H.L. Mencken. The trouble about fighting for human freedom is that you have to spend much of your life defending sons of bitches, for oppressive laws are always aimed at them originally, and oppression must be stopped in the beginning if it is to be stopped at all. Whistleblowers. As someone currently going through whistleblower retaliation, it's rough. Also, I already have a lawyer, not looking for legal advice. Edit, lol, it's not Boeing. I'm a police officer who made a report to Attorney General, after making many attempts within department and even meeting with Mayor's office and City Attorney and State's Attorney, about some bad practices and many arrests that were knowingly fraudulent and key evidence was intentionally withheld. There is a lot more to it, but would take too much time. After making my reports, I have been harassed. Recently was even told I would be suspended if I didn't take 15K and resign. Of course I said no, was never suspended. There was no discipline. Just told to resign. This has happened several times, but each time more bold. There is more. But again, it's too long of a story. Seriously, thanks for doing it. Sinead O'Connor was an absolute legend. She protested Catholic sex abuse cover-ups loud and proud. It cost her her career. She was villainized for years. Sinead O'Connor was destroyed for speaking truth about the Catholic Church as well, and we know how that turned out. RIP. The following week on SNL, Joe Pesci hosted. During the opening monologue, he said he wanted to punch Sinead in the face. And the audience cheered. Kinda like when John Wayne had to be restrained from attacking the native woman that accepted an Academy Award for Marlon Brando. Why was that okay? Exclamation mark.